All right, Super Talk, welcome back. We are here at the Neshoba County Fair live. This is the Paul Gallo Show, and I'm Mandy Gunasekara, the guest host for today's program. And I'm so excited to be joined by our next guest, David McRae, who is our state treasurer. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Mandy. I appreciate it. I miss Paul, but I love being next to you. That's great. And good to see you and everything. And I think it's going to be a great morning of speeches and everything that goes along with having the fair on this kind of towards the end of it. So,
I know, and luckily you're out here earlier, so it's not too bad.
20 degrees cooler than it will be in just a couple minutes and everything. It'll be nice and warm in a little bit. So yeah,
you have
glad to be here.
Thank the planners for that. On your end, now, did you get to go to the fair at all yesterday, or are you just coming in today?
I had to work yesterday. Had to get everything going with the Treasury and what we do down there. So I came in late yesterday and here this morning. So
yeah,
I was excited.
Well, good. Well, you've got your speech coming up today. I believe you're going on at what, 9:40 a.m.?
That's what they tell me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, it's about 9:40, and we're going to have a good speech. What I like to do in non-election years is kind of explain what the Treasury has been up to the past year. It's kind of office not many people really notice very often until we publish something, and yeah, we're doing things over there, and we have a lot of great news. I mean, you turn on the news today, and it's one thing after another being negative, and but we have a lot of great things to talk about in the 10 minutes I have up there to speak, and I think people are going to be quite impressed, surprised, and just good to know that Mississippi is going in the right direction.
Well, yeah, and you've really focused a lot on something the national conversation has talked a lot about but not really been able to achieve, and that's the importance of balancing budgets, and something I know that has been a defining aspect here in Mississippi. Could you talk a little bit about the efforts around that and your role?
So, at the Treasury, we're the bank.
Yeah.
I mean, so all the money and transactions, and we pay, we dole out money to the agencies and keep things running. And we're really, and what I'll talk about later in my speech is we are the fuel for Mississippi's economy.
Yeah.
We jumpstart everything. And with our investments, I come from the private sector. And so when I ran in 19, that was a big emphasis of mine, is to kind of use my knowledge from the private sector and the investments that I have from the private sector and make sure that the state is on good financial footing. And I'll say it here for the people not here and listening, is we've made $375 million off of investments for the state of Mississippi last year alone.
That's amazing.
It's a record for Mississippi. It's the most Mississippi has ever made off that. And it's really, people say, well, the interest rates and everything are high, and we've been able to take advantage of those and everything like that, and that's true. And I think that just shows my experience from outside public life and knowing where to put money, where to move it, and make sure we're getting the best return possible, so the taxpayers get the advantage of that.
Yeah, you want to deliver the most bang for the taxpayer buck.
Well, that's it, and that way we're not having to do a big bond bill. We're not having to borrow money. Again, going back to the high interest rates, we're not having to borrow those at such a high level to pay for things we obviously need and things like that, infrastructure improvements and stuff like that. But having that cash on hand, having that liquidity, that's just going to help Mississippi going forwards for the future. I mean, and I'm very happy and proud to have done that, and we hope the economy stays good and our places where we are, and we're constantly looking for the next place to put our money for the state. We're not resting on the fact and just saying, hey, we're just going to roll it and see where we go from here, but we're constantly looking where the next place, next place to put our money to make the most bang for our buck.
Yeah, well, and that's great because Mississippi's work really hard for their dollars, and we want to make sure that we have someone who's thinking strategically about, the receipt of it is going to things that not only result in tangible improvements for life in Mississippi, but also if you can take $1 and turn it into 2 or 3, well, that's a heck of a return on the overarching investment.
And that's right, and so that really helps, again, not having to do the bond deal, but, that's things people don't normally see a lot. I mean, that doesn't impact, taxpayers will see that impact eventually,
Yeah.
you know, but by not having taxes raised and not having to borrow money on bonds. But the biggest impact we've had that people see in their daily life around the kitchen table is we've been able to return $100 million in unclaimed property money.
Okay.
And that is a record for the state of Mississippi as well. When I came into office, that was a passion project of mine, is to get that money out the door to people in Mississippi. And that, so we returned $100 million as of this month.
Okay.
That's $25 million more than it was last time I was here this time. So it's incredible. I mean, having all this and having money and having things like that, and it helps the local economies, it helps the pocketbook. And, you know, when things just cost more, having an extra little bit of money in your pocketbook, in your pocket, is just great.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's in the world of Bidenflation that we continue to live in. Maybe it'll be reframed as Kamalaflation. I'm not quite sure. It doesn't have the same ring, but
they're working on that now. I'm sure they have a focus group, and I'm sure they have a test group, and they'll figure it out by their convention, whatever that is, if she's still there.
If she's still, yeah, that's right, exactly. Who knows? Who knows? You never know.
They like to replace people, so who knows?
You can't trust the Democrat machine, which is ultimately what conservatives are up against. Them and the mainstream media. It's not necessarily the candidates. They can put up someone who isn't really there, or they can put up a left-wing radical like we're seeing with Kamala Harris. And anyway, they're going to work really hard to try to rebrand it in a way that close to half of the American public would potentially support at the voters.
Well, you know, going back to something you said at the beginning of that, is Biden inflation, or whatever they're going to call it. I mean, he thinks he cured the economy, but, you know, the bottom line is, you go to the grocery store, you go to the grocery store, I go to the grocery store, anybody listening here goes to the grocery store or has groceries shipped to them, whatever way they want to do it. But things cost more.
Yeah.
And I think the simple question is your life better than it was 4 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think anyone listening can honestly say, yeah, it's better, because it's not. I mean, things cost more. People are not buying homes. Businesses aren't starting. Again, back to the interest rates and getting loans. Just things cost more. So going back to unclaimed property and giving that money back to the people of Mississippi, that helps them live their daily lives, helps them get by if they need to. I mean, we get calls all the time from people who say, oh, well, I only have $100. It turns out they have $25,000, $30,000, $800,000 is
wow.
given back. And they're just amazed by this. But it's life-changing money. And again, being able to go and not have to worry about that, and not have to worry maybe just for a little bit about having how you're going to buy groceries, how you're going to pay for your bills, pay for your gas, pay whatever you want to pay for with it. And it really does help out.
Yeah, or maybe invest in something to help your kids take that next step in either higher education or in some of the apprenticeship programs that Sid Salter was here talking about. They're working over at Mississippi State and also at the University of Mississippi in Southern Miss. So just creating that opportunity. Obviously, access to resources is a big part of it. David, I want to shift just a little bit. I know you've been really impactful on in environmental, social, and governance, ESG, a three-letter dirty word, as it rightfully should be. Through some of your work, there's the State Financial Officers Association I know you've been working with, but could you talk a little bit about that, what exactly ESG is, and how you are protecting mostly retirees' investments from going to support woke causes or things that they may not ultimately align with?
So you summed it up. It was environmental social justice, and really the environmental part is what, and I'll get into that in a second, but the environmental part really does impact Mississippi. As far as retirees, I sit on the PERS board, and one thing I pushed on the PERS board is to make sure we didn't have any ESG investments. ESG investments generally make roughly 25 to 30% lower than any other investments. And you are starting to see, when I first took over as treasurer back in 2019, 2020, and got sworn in 2020, ESG was the big thing. You would see in New York, Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan, BlackRock.
Oh yeah, I remember all that.
BlackRock, all those guys, they were like, yep, this is the way we're going, and if you don't like it, tough. Well, what they found is, again, they didn't make money off of it. But however, you saw pension funds. In fact, I know one treasurer, not a conservative treasurer from up north, and she handles their pension fund, and she is fine with it losing money in ESG investments. And I just couldn't morally, ethically And I just couldn't have that happen in our pension fund. So protecting the retirees from these ESG investments, which we do, and PERS makes a lot of money on their investments, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But the big thing is in Mississippi on agriculture, they've taken all these ESG theories and ideas from really the European Union.
Yep.
So you go over to Denmark, you go over and look at what they're doing in the Netherlands and things like that, and they have, told you how much timber they can cut, how many heads of cattle you can have, and they have a real energy crisis and still have an energy crisis. And I've been railing and talking about this for about 2 years.
Yeah.
And they want it to come to Mississippi and say how many cattle you can grow. And I couldn't imagine Cindy Hyde-Smith, I know she would be raising.
She'd have a problem with that for sure.
She'd be raising hell. And then, but going back to timber, which is an agricultural business, which is a major business for the state of Mississippi, they wanted to say, hey, you can only cut so much timber per year, per year and whatnot. And the thing is, I just could not believe they wanted to do that. So starting back when I got to be treasurer, I with the SFOF, State Financial Officers Foundation, we have made clear to the Biden administration and to anyone who will listen to us that we do not support ESG, that ESG is a dirty word. But
and I hate to interrupt, we're running out of time, but thank you for our work. These bad ideas are being welcomed by the current administration, but you're protecting Mississippi's hard-earned dollars. We thank you for that. Our state treasurer, David McRae, if y'all stay tuned, we've got to take a quick break.